Hello everybody, how are you doing today? This is my very first episode with a new podcast, Sharing Moments with Carin, brought to you by StormTalk365radio.com. You might wonder, what is this podcast about? And that's why the first episode is essentially an introduction. From time to time, each of us watch or experience life happenings, and it might even remind us of something in the past. Out of it, we think we might have something to take away, and we feel it's valuable enough to share with others, or entertaining enough to share with others. Maybe you have something to tell, or a short story maybe, something that will make somebody else's day brighter, bring them joy, laughter, or cause them to pause and maybe think differently than they did before. Maybe you can provide encouragement where there is a need. And that's what I want to do, all of the above. And what could I write about? Well, you know what? My life is not in a vacuum. I do get out and about, and when I do, I experience good, bad, and ugly stuff that you might have an interest in knowing about. You might even prefer to learn from my mistakes and appreciate the warnings that I give. I take family vacations to interesting places, and they do not usually involve the typical fantastic and well-known resorts, but they are always an adventure. And I go on women's retreats, participate in various workshops, I help in church missions, and I donate time to charitable work. There are even fun, entertaining, and educational stories in any arena that we might share. I've written a few books, and as an author, I love to write and to create. I enjoy putting ideas, experiences to paper. Well, mostly type it, not put it to paper, but type it into the computer. And then I love to present it, what I have to offer, in a video or podcast. I have written books, like I said. I realize how busy, very busy people are nowadays, so they're never very long. The whole purpose in sharing is to affect another person for a positive outcome, and hopefully to help fill a need, maybe an unspoken need that hasn't even been voiced. I could tell you the backstory to my books that I've written, and in doing so, I may be encouraging someone to go ahead and write that book, tell that story, share your testimony. What spurred my interest in doing this particular podcast in this day and time? Well, I was at a workshop about a year ago as an opportunity to reflect on myself and see what I could learn from my life journey. And during that time, I made a vision board. And I recently pulled out that vision board and took another look at it, and it appears that everything on it seems applicable even today. In the center of it is the word joy, in bold, very bold, loud letters. From it you can see a few main areas. My spiritual life, that includes a church life and serving the Lord in various ways. And it also has a section as an author and podcaster to write and to share. Then you see health interests, family, vacations, time with loved ones, music, and so on. I believe, to sum it up, what's important from the vision board is reflected in Psalm 16:11. In the Living Bible, you, Lord, have let me experience the joys of life and the exquisite pleasures of your own eternal presence. And in the Amplified Bible, you will show me the path of life. In your presence is fullness of joy. In your right hand there are pleasures forevermore. So the name of the podcast could have been The Joys of Life, The Fullness of Joy, or Joyful Moments in His Presence. But we all know not all of our experiences or moments are what we would describe as joyful. And in this podcast, I don't want to be limited. I hope to share all types of moments, not only those that are fun and happy and joyful. When we're watching, we may not recognize it, but God is there. Like in a theater, He has a part to play in it all. Well, here's a short example of what I'm talking about. Not long ago, a group in my family met at a resort in Crossville, Tennessee. It was my sister and niece coming from Indiana, my brother and his girlfriend coming from Florida, and of course my husband and me coming from Virginia. We had a little mini reunion. While we gathered at one site, another couple came along and joined us, and that was Laura and Steve. They were locals, so they knew which road, and most importantly, what obscure and unmarked path that we needed to take in order to reach the Ozone Falls overlook. And they were willing to drop their plans and to guide us, even to spend time with us while there. We enjoyed the time and the view together. How awesome is that? They were like the Good Samaritan. They were helping people in need, but we had fun together. And I love waterfalls. That was a blessing for me. So what do you think? I believe these two wonderful people were brought to us because the Lord knew that we would appreciate these moments at the falls. And it wouldn't have been the same without them. So anyway, as we were traveling the same path back to our cars, my sister asked if they had any bear sightings. And yes, indeed, there had been. Bears had been sighted even right where we were. And my sister became frightened. So what did I do to make her feel at ease? I told her a bear story. I told them both a bear story. Some years ago, my brother and my son had been hiking in the woods in West Virginia when my brother noticed a cave, and he said, "Here's a cave. Should we look in it?" And they did, and they saw a great, big, gigantic head with two beady eyes looking right at them. Well, they hightailed it as fast as they could out of there. And then some time passed after they told me this story, after they shared that adventure with me. And then my husband and I were exploring a wooded area somewhere in Black Mountain, North Carolina, at a resort. And he said, "Carin, here's a cave. Should we look in it?" I gave him a resounding no and urged him to immediately leave with me. We hightailed it out of there. That night, two huge bears, a mother and her son, came into the resort area, tearing up and making a mess with all the trash cans. One, which we know because of the paw prints on the car, one of them had walked over the top of my husband's car and making a hole in the bumper with his bear claw nail. As my story ended, we had reached the parking area and my sister had forgotten her bear worries. Laura looked at me and said, "And this is also Black Mountain." What? She explained that we were at the Ozone Falls overlook on Black Mountain in Tennessee. Ha! Talk about coincidence. There's a few lessons in that story in case you didn't catch them. Number one, listen to other people's stories. It may save your life. Number two, don't be too curious. 3, know something about the residing animals before you go into an unknown wooded area. 4, sometimes you can distract another person from their fears with a story. And number 5, we know the Lord was with us throughout our experience that day. There are no real coincidences. God is in control of it all. Well, I hope you enjoyed this first of my many episodes on sharing moments with Carin. This is Carin Jane Casey with StormTalk365Radio.com. You may be aware I have 2 other podcasts. Turn to God with Carin on Monday mornings at 6:30, essentially about overcoming life challenges. And then Abundant Living with Carin Tuesday mornings at 7, where we share the good news of Jesus. You can Google these podcasts by name or go to stormtalk365radio.com, or you can go to Carin Jane Casey on YouTube. Please visit my website, CarinJaneCasey.com. That's CarinJaneCasey. And you can also find my books there, My Dear Rosa Jean, my first novel, which is suspenseful, dramatic, and shares about overcoming and healing. Mystery at Candace Bay is a page-turner, entertaining, and encouraging. Granny Babysits the Mischievous 5, a fun children's chapter book for kids and grown-ups. My books are available at Amazon.com and Kindle, Barnes & Noble Nook. Thank you and have a blessed week.